Today, we are exploring a topic of what is the underlying cause of fatigue and how can you really solve it? What the heck is fatigue? And here's a scenario, everybody. I mean, if you are waking up tired, okay, or it's 2 p.m., 4 p.m., and you're finding yourself crashing, or you feel like later in the evening that you're just almost like feeling like there's severe brain fog, like you just can't get the words out, the numbers out, because your brain feels tired. Or, you have trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, and you wake up in the morning tired all over again. If that's you, it's not your fault. There are actually real reasons, real underlying causes, and real solutions that your doctor doesn't even know about that I'm going to explore today. How many people here have been diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome or know what that is, right? Chronic fatigue syndrome is one of the syndromes where it's a diagnosis of where you've ruled out everything else as a doctor. There's nothing else that you can, in a medical world, say, that's why this patient is fatigued. Then the patient gets labeled with chronic fatigue syndrome, which is a catch-all term for someone who's chronically tired, and they don't have another medical diagnosis to diagnose it. Frequently, chronic fatigue syndrome is something that can happen as a result. For example, it could be multiple causes, but one of it could be a viral infection. How many people had Epstein-Barr virus, EBV, or mono, or had COVID and developed long haul, and then was later diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, right? So there absolutely could be infectious cause, what I call super infectious agents that can infect your immune system and cause a whole host of other issues that can trigger chronic fatigue. How many of you fits that category? The other group of some of the people that diagnoses sometimes that I see that people get really tired would be around hormonal imbalance. People who are really struggling with their hormones. And if that's you, type it in here, because how many people notice certain times of the month if you're menstruating that you could get super tired? Some people like me, I hit early menopause at the age of 36. So I came down with mystery fatigue between 30 and 36 that I had no clue why. And I didn't realize it was signs of early menopause. How many people never had fatigue before, only to realize that around 35 to 55 is that perimenopausal range. Boom, that hit, right? And I'm going to link it to underlying that type of chronic fatigue. Could it be, and is it, and people who've worked with me know the answer, was hormonal chaos or big times of hormonal shift or change part of the reason that you were tired? And the answer is yeah, because I see people with perimenopause. I see people with menstrual things going on. I see men with some big hormonal shifts. I see people with undiagnosed or diagnosed thyroid issues going on. And it's one of the major reasons underneath why they're tired, they're fatigued. There's another bucket of conditions where it's an immune system dysregulation, where somebody's immune system, like an autoimmune disease, instead of your immune system busy trying to identify germs outside your body and actively trying to kill them, your immune system turns against your own body, says you're a germ and I'm going to try to kill you. And that's what autoimmune disease is. And in the case, for example, if someone have Hashimoto's, autoimmune of the thyroid, and they have thyroid hormone problems, one of the problems that's the major cause underneath it is your own immune system attacking the thyroid. If your immune system is busy attacking your thyroid and mistaking a hormone-making organ, your thyroid, as a germ, what do you think is the likelihood that it's going to be attacking things like your ovaries, your adrenals, and even your brain hormones, right? So the plot thickens, meaning that we got this bucket of autoimmune or immune system dysregulation, and it can actually attack your hormone-making organs, right? So that can also trigger fatigue. Now, there's this group of what I would call nervous system disorder, which is the fourth group. And because nobody else is really grouping it in this way, and that's around POTS. How many people have POTS? Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, dysautonomia, right? Or had long haul and developed, or didn't have long haul, but developed symptoms where your heart rate starts to go really fast, really slow, blood pressure starts to go up and down, you're starting to get vertigo and dizziness, and no one can figure out what's going on. Or maybe you are lucky enough to get one of those diagnoses, or maybe you didn't. But come on, we know this is what we call a nervous system disorder. I have a lot of videos and trainings around that. But here's the problem. People don't realize that when you have one of these nervous system disorders, it's one of the major triggers of fatigue, because your nervous system really is the interaction between your autonomic nervous system is the interaction between your parasympathetic nervous system, that's the calm and rest and digest, and your sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight. And in nervous system disorder, that balance is completely off. So that fight or flight is the predominant pattern. And there's a very weak parasympathetic calm, rest, and digest balance here. And as a result, this fight or flight all throughout the day and the night causes what? Dramatic depletion of the energy making cells in your body and the hormones that are needed for your everyday function. And so it causes chronic fatigue. Okay. So by and large, I would say at least 60, 70% of people we talk to, and we talk to every week, has, fatigue linked with a nervous system disorder. So now that we went over some of these major diagnosis pockets where people can have fatigue or no diagnosis, I want to go over what are the three fundamental areas that is the root cause of fatigue, no matter what the diagnosis is or lack of diagnosis is. So what I'm going to talk about number one first is the first part of fatigue is that you have to understand what a mitochondria is. Mitochondria are cells within your cells. The mitochondria is the energy-making factory in every cell in your body. It is the energy plant, the electric plant, for example. So in the mitochondria, it makes energy. So it makes energy cells like it transfers ADP to ATP. ATP is the energy currency around your entire body. Without active ATP as the energy source, every cell is going to be fatigued. Every function in your body is going to be decreased. So how often are mitochondrial problems where the electrical plant in your body is a problem? 100% of the time people I work with. 100% of the time there's a problem with the mitochondria. Okay. And I'm going to talk specifically too, and just to link a little bit, just so you know, when you think about long haul and you think about COVID, one of the, when you look at all the research and what COVID, the virus really attacks is it loves to attack mitochondria. So if it loves to attack mitochondria and the energy making ability of every cell, so doesn't it make sense that a specific virus that it loves to attack mitochondria would cause chronic fatigue? So I would love to know how many long haulers are out there where you're like, now that's ringing a bell. I have a mitochondrial issue. Well, really importantly, when we think through how to fix a mitochondrial disorder is what are the things that actually feeds into what we call Krebs cycle, electron transport chain. These are the mechanisms within the electrical mitochondrial plant that actually makes energy. And really critical to that is what I call methylated things that have a methyl group on it, supplements that have a methyl group on it, and specifically B vitamins. So I'm going to talk about this so to make it super easy. So in this product called Boost Me, okay, Boost Me has all the methylated Bs that are really mission critical, and methyl donors are really critical to actually feed this making of the energy. So I'm going to focus on something methylated B12. How many people have heard about MTHFR, have heard about methylated B12, why you never want to take a B12 over the counter? Just so you know, most of the B12 over the counter is cyanocobalamin, really cheap to make. They can tell you that it's 3,000 times the RDA, but it doesn't work. Why? Because it doesn't have the methyl group attached to it. So methylated B12 is a critical supplement because of multiple reasons, but that methyl group that's attached to the B12 molecule is what causes the B12 to be what we call methyl donors. It donates methyl to all these energy making processes throughout your body. Methyl groups are also needed to also break down toxins in the body. And methyl groups are needed to even make brain hormones. How many people have brain fatigue? Right? How many people have brain fatigue? Just even like thinking or just existing feels like your brain feels tired. Well, methyl groups are really mission critical for brain fatigue specifically because the methyl groups are in the brain, donates methyls, for example, to make, for example, serotonin to turn into melatonin in the brain. So all these steps where one hormone in the brain turns into the next hormones requires a methyl group right there to say, here, make it happen. So when there's people there with long haul, let's say where mitochondria is infected, or they have genetic things like the MTHFR gene, where if you have MTHFR gene, for example, you already know that you're going to have trouble making your own methyls. So it makes sense to take methylated vitamins like methylated B12. The other aspect of this is B12 is really not even the methyl group, but B12 is mission critical for what? Energy making. So a lot of people will tell you that, when they've been super tired, they had to get B12 injections or it's been helpful. Methylated B12 taken on a daily basis is really critical for physical fatigue because it helps you make more energy, right? That being said, the other aspect of it is B12 is mission critical for brain health. So when we think about the brain, it's just a lot of nerves, right? One of the vitamins that's really critical for people that say that I have brain fatigue or even sleep problems is B12. Okay, remember B12 helps serotonin turn into melatonin. So if you don't do methylated B12 on a daily basis, how are you going to make melatonin if you are deficient in the enzymes? Right. So that's a lot of I know that's a lot of science there, but I want to make it so that it's really approachable for you that there's a symptom here, but this is the thing that's broken and here's how you can fix it. So you literally can say, I'm going to take something that contains not just B12, but methylated B12 on a daily basis. Right. And it doesn't just stop there. If you guys know what I'm talking about, how many people have benefited from just methylated B12 alone in the past and knowing the difference between methylated and cyanocobalamin, right? Don't take cyanocobalamin, please. And 99% of vitamins on the market are made with cyanocobalamin. So specifically, if you're going to be taking anything, especially like a B complex like Boost Me, you want to make sure it's methylated B vitamins and not just methylated B12. Another methylated B vitamin is methylated folate. How many people know about folate, right? And then Norma mentioned here, what if my B12 levels are normal? Here's the problem. Blood testing for B12 is completely useless and inaccurate way to know what your true B12 levels really are. And that's what I teach. So that's the problem is even doctors don't understand that blood levels of B12 are absolutely inaccurate way of knowing whether you actually have good B12 intracellularly. And here's the thing. You don't need testing to know. If you're watching this and you're fatigued, you got a methylated B12 problem, methylation problem. I already know that because you have the results of that, right? So without any additional testing, without even any additional learning, does it make sense for everyone with chronic fatigue to take something that has the B complex, all the B vitamins that are methylated in here every morning? Yeah, but that doesn't stop right there, right? Because there's methylated folate. Methylated folate, incredibly helpful for brain. Okay. And incredibly helpful for hormones as well. In fact, methylated folate is so important that it is in prenatal vitamins or for women trying to get pregnant because it absolutely for brain development, brain energy making, for also preventing neural tube defects in babies. Folate and methylated is just darn good for your brain. And methylated folate is really good for cardiovascular health, meaning for people with, when we start looking at problems with people with elevated inflammatory levels with heart disease and stroke risk, methylation is really important and is incredibly helpful for decreasing some of the inflammation. Now, I want to go through really quickly some of these other B vitamins. So thiamine, okay, that's B1, really kicks metabolism. That's another B vitamin. And then let's talk about riboflavin. That's B2, right? B2 directly needed to actually make ADP to ATP. Another one's niacin, okay? Niacin is B3. And have you guys heard about NAD or NADIVs, right? And that's really important in the energy making of what we call the Krebs cycle, another mitochondrial and cellular function that actually needs niacin. But yet we're really depleted on proper levels of niacin on a regular basis. So I really have to think through what are all the things that are needed? And niacin, mission critical, right? And then there's vitamin B6. And when you look at B6, and I measure brain neurotransmitters, brain hormones with clients we work with, for example. And when you actually look at the biochemistry of how some of these brain hormones are made, like dopamine, like serotonin, like GABA, guess what's needed? Actually, P5P, one of the B vitamins, right? So it's actually, and most vitamins that actually make B6 is not P5P. So there's specific forms of a specific vitamin at the right time delivered that actually helps make brain hormones that are needed for concentration, focus. Where when you think about B complex, I want to move it beyond, and I will tell you right now, some of you are going to say, I can just go to Costco or go to Vitacost and get a B complex vitamin. And I'm going to say, please be really educated and careful about what supplements you put in your body. And the reason being is every form of the vitamin that I mentioned, the form matters. Active form of these vitamins matter. Number 2, the dosing matters. Number 3, the timing and absorbability matters even more. So I want to make sure that we wrap this topic neatly in a bow is mitochondrial function, which is the energy power plant in your cells, absolutely critically need boosts me with all the critical methylated B vitamins in there, and all these B vitamins in the right form, in the right dose, and given at the right time. So Boost Me is 2 in the morning. If you guys are interested in a teach and learn around supplementation or root causes of some of these issues, put those questions in chat. I look at every single comment. I personally look at every single comment, and I will make that happen.